I'm just trying to think of female athletes moving forward, whether it's a scholarship, whether it's there's going to be a pro league that's viable. But I do know there are agents getting scholarships, finding places for girls to play, and they're working for parents and players, submitting videos to schools. So, Kim, can you add something related to your experience in that area? And have you experienced agencies or parents that have asked you about that?
Yeah, it's funny, actually. Most of the parents who ask about that also have a son who plays, who's typically older and has used that type of service on the boys' side. So it is rare that I get someone who's only been through, I guess, high-level hockey with their daughter who asks those questions. I've been asked many times if I will do this for families, and I do not do this for families. But it is because the carrot is the scholarship or the college hockey experience in women's hockey. I think we can all agree making the Olympic team and doing it multiple times as Sami did, that's got to be harder than making the NHL if you just look at the percentages. So, the college hockey experience is the end goal. And I think, interestingly, the people who could pay for or afford those types of service perhaps are the ones who don't need it the most, but feel like they are getting some special treatment if they have it. But even when I went through the process back in, I'll just date myself, the 90s, there were people who would offer this type of service for you. And I remember them coming to my parents' house and sitting down, and my parents are both super nerds and they're not athletic. And they sort of sat there. We knew nothing about the process, and it was a very new process even back then in the late 90s. And, they just couldn't connect the dots that this person was really in it for our interest, because of course, whether you get the scholarship or not sort of hinges on whether this person gets paid. And so that's always been my challenge with it is, the terms of agreement, right? Like if you're only getting paid if they get the end result or end up on a team, then your motivation is slightly different. So I've provided guidance for families, obviously, and through my role as a coach and with other people through Total Female Hockey, but I would never do it in a way that, if X then Y, then I get paid because you got the scholarship. But there are plenty of opportunities out there, or plenty of agencies out there that do it on the women's side. And I think personally, and Matt would be able to better answer this, I think if you have a coach who is trusted, who can vouch for the player and say, hey, this kid's really great, you should have a look, is going to be much more valuable to someone like Matt than it would be some agency or some scout who doesn't necessarily even know the player that well or hasn't necessarily seen them play. But that, I haven't seen it take off yet in women's hockey. Maybe it will, but I don't think it will until there's some bigger carrot than the college hockey. But I'm sure Matt's got something to say about it. He's probably been contacted by many of these people over the years.
Go ahead, Matt.
Yeah, I agree. I probably get 10 years ago, it would have been very unusual. I may have had 2 quote unquote agents talk to me about players. Now it's certainly monthly and probably several times a month from all over the place. And in fact, I'd say almost half of them that I'm getting right now are for international players. So people in Europe, female players looking to come across to North America to play, and that sort of, I guess I'll use the word agent, because there's some of those in North America as well. Like those that are there to facilitate a connection, I think there's a value in that. Certainly those that are over in Europe, they may not know our systems or how things work as well, maybe, and having someone bridge that gap, I think, is very helpful. And there are some of those in North America as well. They basically are hired by the family to come up with a short list and then present that back to the player, and they take it from there. And I certainly appreciate that, because there's a lot of options and noise to wade through. So I think that there's value there. But where I get a little bit frustrated is where they come in and take more of a class, not classic, but again, a kind of a you can only talk to me type of approach, I guess. And it's trouble because they don't, they put up a wall between myself and the player, which makes it a bit difficult. So I totally agree with Kim. Like in that scenario, I at this point, I'd rather talk to the coach. I'd rather talk and learn about the player. So it's interesting. It's kind of I don't know, not a Wild West, but it is a open space right now. Again, there's no contracts or major contracts. I don't know what the arrangements are. I mean, our scholarships in Canada are not so lucrative that you could take a chunk of that pie and make a living. So I'm not really sure how that's working behind the scenes. So anyway, it's a lot more prevalent these days, and we'll see where it goes.
I don't know how to raise my hand with the emoji thing. So can I just do this? Wally, are you there? You're gone.
Go ahead. Just go ahead, Doug.
So I was just going to tell Wally, I actually have to sign off here in a couple minutes. So I guess I'll kind of end with this. But a good friend of mine, former teammate Brian Pothier, who played in the NHL for a long time, is now an assistant coach with the U.S. women's team. And we've been having a few conversations about, where the women's game is going and what could be coming down the pipe. And I firmly believe, and Sammy and Kim, you guys might know this better than I do, that I do think there's going to be a legit professional league, that the NHL will support. I think it's a good idea. I think the girls deserve it, and I think it will happen. And, we've just been talking about like the players coming up, and I've been, talking to him about like the marketing and endorsement potential. And also talking with another colleague of mine who works for a bigger agency. He works for one of the evil empires that we're still friends, I guess, but he does marketing endorsements. And him and I have been talking about a lot that, I think that once the NHL, and I'm speaking, out of turn a little bit, but once the NHL, does get behind the girls and create something, there's going to be tremendous potential to market the girls and market the female game. And I think you're going to see it. I think it's going to go to another level. I hope it does. I don't know, like if someone like myself or if agencies would, are going to get involved, but it's conversations we've been having. I think it's kind of really exciting, especially from like a marketing and endorsement side of things. And I've talked to a couple of the major equipment manufacturers about this, about like how many girls are playing hockey, and like you need to have, and I know some of the girls, I know like Decker has a deal, I think, with maybe CCM, I don't know, Hillary has a deal with Nike, I think. So like, I know some of the girls like have deals, but I think as it grows, like they're gonna need those companies to get behind, and they're hopefully gonna need agents and respected, kind of people to get behind and help them out. I think it's coming, and I think we just need to get through COVID and all the money that the owners lost, and get them in a better mood to spend a little bit more money on potentially the women's game. So, anyways, Wally, I see you're back there. I do have to sign off here in a minute. So I don't know if the girls have any comments on that, what I just said. I'd kind of like to hear it actually, if you do. And then I do have to sign off.
You're muted, Wally.
Sammy, you've been managing, pro teams and trying to get off the ground. And what are your thoughts?
So, Doug, I love your comments, first off. Can you guys hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay. I'm just a little delayed on my end, but I love the comments, and I would love to connect with you offline to give you maybe the full perspective on what's going on, because there is a ton going on. And obviously you have the little tip of the iceberg. So there is lots of exciting things. It's going to be amazing. It is just very, very convoluted right now, and very muddy waters.
Yeah.
And yeah, so I feel like we've kind of had that discussion within the Sharks a bunch of times. You guys have heard from Kim and I. about sort of the full gamut. But yeah, I would love to connect with you at some point and be able to give you sort of, I guess, the perspective of having been in the game for 22 years, but also been the manager and started this CWHL, which is the league that the girls took down to be able to get to where they are right now. So there's a lot of different things at play, and I think we all have opinions. So take that with a grain of salt too.
I'd love to hear it. That'd be great. Let's do that.
Okay. So yeah, let's follow up post meeting, and I can give you at least mine and Kim's perspective.
Okay, great. Yeah, I like that.
Kim, anything else?
No, I mean, while I was involved with Sami at starting the CW way back in the day, it seems like now, I'm mostly living in the minor hockey world, and I do think it will have a profound impact. I do get emails from parents and saying, my daughter wants to play pro hockey, and before you would hear, well, she wants to get a scholarship. So that has, in addition to making the Olympic team, that is now they are seeing that as being a viable goal or something to aspire to. And so a lot of parents have expressed that outright, and I just don't. Back when we played pro, Sami, like no one would have said that. I don't think they even knew our league existed for the most part when you talked about the minor hockey level. So it's much more visible, which obviously is a huge marketing piece moving forward. And probably one of the reasons that it'll all be able to get off the ground is just, those rabid fans and the people who aspire to that and their parents are now looking at it as an actual road ahead, as opposed to the college hockey being the end goal. Now this is a much bigger end goal, so it's exciting sitting here at the minor hockey level for sure.
Doug, there's another area that I was going to ask about. Dr. Lou mentioned, and she posted soccer, professional soccer, and there are pro leagues just sprouting up around the world. And I know that the team from China, the professional team, plays in the Russian league. Some of the high-level players are pretty well paid there. But I'm just curious, Doug, keep track of it, because what goes on in the women's NBA and the support of that league and what Sami's going through relative to sort of seeing what's happening between the two leagues in North America. Yeah, I agree with you. There's potential somewhere to do things the right way. I think on the male side, the reputation of agencies is sort of one of entitlement and promising, and rather than earning, and that's what I've experienced. If you get a top client, you're going to have a big lucrative company, but you might lose perspective on the purpose of that. So, at the NHL level. And Joanna, you're concerned about the welfare of elite professional players. Well, it starts below that, and I think everything we're talking about here is connected. So, looking forward to future conversations. And I know, Doug, you have to leave, but I've got some questions for Dominic that sort of segue from what we said and what he's doing on the female side and the male side with his experience. Dealing with agents, I'm sure is his own himself, and just to get insights for our audience. So, Doug, thank you very much. Anything else you want to add, Doug, before you sign off?
No, just that was a lot of fun. Thanks to you guys, and I hope I can hop on again. And no, it was really great perspectives, guys, and thanks for having me. Feel free to reach out, and